and background that helped you, contribute to this job before you decided to even pursue the major?
Well, to be very honest, this was not my first thing. My undergraduate degree is in business and economics, and I decided after being in that for a short time that I felt like I had to go back to coaching and athletics. It is what opened doors for me, almost my whole life, and so I kind of went back to that. Prior to going back and getting a degree in education, I coached some, club volleyball, but mostly it was as a player. I played collegiate volleyball, played four sports throughout high school. And so I guess that's, it was just sort of where I came from.
What are your work hours and daily routine schedules like?
My work hours are insane.
Mm-hmm.
The first 6 weeks of the season, pretty much putting in 90-hour weeks. I mean, with tournaments on the weekends and, games at night and early morning practices. It's pretty nuts during the first part of the season. We're starting to kind of settle into a routine.
Mm-hmm.
We do morning practices here. So I get here between 5:45 and 6 each morning, and that's practice with my varsity, and then our freshmen practice after school, and they finish at 5:15. So 10 to 12 hour days on a regular day, and then game nights, obviously. If we're away, sometimes we're not home until after 10. If we're here, it just kind of depends on the length of the game. So routine is practice, then teach, then end with another practice.
Okay, nice. Do you have any personal characteristics that are helpful to your job type?
I think, I'm a type A personality. Yeah, I mean, I operate on a schedule, and timely, organized. Yeah, I mean, the whole type A thing, I think, goes pretty well with the profession.
Okay.
Control freak.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a coaching philosophy?
Yeah. Above all else, I want the young women that we coach in this program to go on to be productive citizens, to be good spouses, partners, mothers, productive citizens in our community or whatever community they choose to be a part of. I think that's first and foremost. Secondly, I want them to get a great education. That's why we're here after all. And I'm going to coach them hard, and we're going to work hard, and we're going to be the very best that we can be, on and off the court.
What is the most satisfying thing about your job, and vice versa, most frustrating?
So satisfying would be the emails, the texts, the correspondence that you get from your former players, seeing them back at a game, having them recall some great memory, the thank yous that you get, from those kids, seeing them go on to do the things that I talked about. Those are all seeing them get married, seeing them raise a family. Those are all really great things. The most frustrating part of my job is without a doubt dealing with parents and the nonstop complaining and the nonstop, it's just nonstop. There is nothing that you can do, and you get berated nonstop. Doesn't matter if you have as many wins as we have or you're losing. It's constant.
And do you start off with a parent policy before the season starts? Do you
Absolutely.
have a meeting with the parents?
We have a meeting. We put policies in place. most choose to ignore it. They
Mhm.
don't care.
Mhm.
So without a doubt,
Yeah.
the most frustrating. Will drive you out of the profession, and I don't know how you young people are going to do it. I say my prayers for you every night.
Do you have comments on your coaching staff? Like when you're being one coach in the many sports that are here in the high school, how do you interact with those coaches between like sharing students, players, athletes, stuff like that?
Okay, like other head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here at Canyon, our philosophy is we want our kids to do as many things, participate in as many things as they can. We encourage our coaches to share if an athlete chooses to do that. You know, with the understanding that with an athlete, you know, if they do multiple things, there could be, you know, they might not be as strong in one as the other, but if an athlete is really good, we want them to do as much as they can. For example, we have a softball player here. As an 8th grader, she committed to OU as a pitcher, and she's still playing volleyball. She's a middle blocker for us, has been a starting middle blocker since she was a freshman. She's now a junior. And the softball coach and I, you know, he's at our games watching her be successful on the volleyball court, and I'm at his watching her being successful on the pitcher's mound. So we've had other players come through, basketball, volleyball crossovers, soccer, volleyball crossovers that have experienced great success in both. And we would never, ever try to tell an athlete to only do one.
Do you believe it's beneficial for a student athlete to do more than one sport?
Absolutely. All the research out there says the crossover is so important. You know, there's less overuse injury because you're working different parts of your body. Yeah, we would love to see our kids do more.
Being that you said you put in so many hours with your students here in the sport, how do you separate your personal from your professional life?
There's not much separation, to be honest. You know, I think whenever you're a coach, you have to have a family that buys into what you're doing. You know, my husband is our biggest fan in the volleyball program, and my daughter's next in line behind him. You know, we have some help. My mother drives, you know, an hour every Tuesday night to pick my daughter up from school and take her home so that she stays in her routine on the weeknights. But every Friday night you'll find her at our matches. And I really think that you have to approach it as it's a family affair. If you don't have a spouse or partner that has bought in with you, you're going to be on an island and spending a lot of hours all by yourself, and then not able, that person isn't, or your family isn't going to be able to understand it unless they're kind of there with you in the trenches each day.
Besides winning, what do you try to teach to your athletes?
You know, a big slogan here at Canyon High School is class and commitment. We want them to show class in everything that they do. We want them to have a strong commitment to everything that they're involved in, academics, any other programs, and you know, make good decisions, be good teammates, be a good person.
Do you have any advice for people who are considering going into this field?
Run. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. You know, my advice would be establish your philosophy from the very beginning and be committed to it. And know that you're going to be challenged by parents each and every day. And as long as you can look yourself in the eye each and every morning and look in the mirror and say, I honestly believe that I'm doing the best thing possible for kids, that I treat kids fairly, that I treat them with respect, whether they're the starter or the last person off the bench. if you can do those things, if you can say those things to yourself each morning when you get up, then you're going to be okay. Don't get me wrong, you're going to be challenged, and there's going to be days when self-doubt creeps in and you're going to say, what on earth have I done? And you know, after being in it for 22 years, I still have to be reminded at times why I'm in it. Some of the days are rough, and they're bad enough that you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? But there's enough really good things out there and really good reminders to keep you going. I would say though, for young coaches, man, you're like raw meat for some of these parents, you know. I mean, like I said, I've been at it for this long, and we've experienced huge success here, and I still get railroaded at times. And don't get me wrong, there are some really great parents that are supportive and support you, and will give you pats on the back when you need them. But I think that being a young coach these days has to be really tough, because I think that parents see no boundaries. There are no boundaries for them, and they'll, you know, go for blood. So I just think that you have to be confident in your philosophy and in what you're doing, so that you can stand your ground. And I would say, you know, anytime that an issue does arise, you need to make sure that you report it to your athletic director, to your head coach, to your principal, to whomever, and explain the situation always, so that when they get some crazy phone call, they've got your back. Look for a place to be employed where you get the backing of your administration, which we're really fortunate to have here. It's not an easy gig. It is not an easy gig, and you know, the reins have to be turned over at some point to you bright young go-getters that have great confidence, and you wanna change the ways, or you know, you want to impact young children, young minds. And I had coaches that did it for me. I had some rocky times in my personal life when I was younger, and it was the coaching and my teams that always carried me through. And it's part of the biggest reason why I'm, you know, doing it. So just impact those around you in a positive manner.
Well, that's all the questions.